Okay, so this topic came in from my friend Marlene, who said, when should we say yes and when should we say no? And I started working on this talk and I started to record it and then I didn't want to. So I said no. Um, I just wasn't in the mind space and I was feeling, I don't know, kind of judgmental of myself and having a hard time doing it. And then today at church, Brian Walker did the inspirational reading and he chose a passage from The Power of Now. And it really tied back into this idea of when to say yes and when to say no. And I thought it was really powerful. So I'm going to repeat it here. It's from chapter 4, which is called Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. And this section is called Freedom from Unhappiness. In my book, it's on page 64. Freedom from unhappiness. Do you resent what you are doing? It may be your job, or you may have agreed to do something and are doing it, but part of you resents and resists it. Are you carrying unspoken resentment toward a person close to you? Do you realize that the energy that you emanate is so harmful in its effect that you are, in fact, contaminating yourself as well as those around you? Have a good look inside. Is there even the slightest trace of resentment, unwillingness? If there is, observe it on both the mental and emotional levels. What thoughts is your mind creating around this situation? Then look at the emotion, which is the body's reaction to those thoughts. Feel the emotion. I know that's a challenge for some of us, but try that. Does it feel pleasant or unpleasant? Is it an energy that you would actually choose to have inside you? And do you have a choice? Maybe you are being taken advantage of. Maybe the activity you're engaged in is tedious. Maybe someone close to you is dishonest, irritating, or unconscious. All of that is irrelevant. Whether your thoughts and emotions about this situation are justified or not does not make a difference. It makes no difference. The fact that you are resisting what is. So when you have those feelings, I'm adding my thoughts here. Those feelings of resentment or unwillingness, then you are resisting what is. You are making the present moment into an enemy. You are creating unhappiness, conflict between the inner and the outer. Your unhappiness is polluting not only your own inner being and those around you, but also the collective human psyche of which you are inseparably a part. The pollution of the planet is an outward reflection of an inner psychic pollution, millions of unconscious individuals not taking responsibility for their inner space. Either stop doing what you are doing, speak to the person concerned and express fully what you feel, or drop the negativity that your mind has created around the situation and that serves no purpose whatsoever except to strengthen a false sense of self. Recognizing its futility is important. Negativity is never the optimum way of dealing with any situation. In fact, in most cases, it keeps you stuck in it, blocking real change. Anything that is done with negative energy will become contaminated by it and in time give rise to more pain or unhappiness. Furthermore, any negative inner state is contagious. Unhappiness spreads more easily than a physical disease. Through the law of resonance, it triggers and feeds latent negativity in others, unless they are immune, in other words, highly conscious. And he goes on and talks about how do we drop the negativity as he suggests. So I realize, don't be negative is kind of bullshit advice, right? It's easier said than done. So you want to think about that a little bit more. So when you are about to say yes to something, I think that what's really important is that you know what's important to you and what your values are, and it kind of goes back to connecting to why. Why are you saying yes to this? Because if it is for something that is not in alignment with your values, then you run the risk of ending up in this resentment, unwilling space. And I want you to think about it from the point of view of let's say, okay, my life, in my prior life, I was the jogathon lady. I was in charge of a major fundraiser for the PTA that involved coordinating hundreds of volunteers, and I needed a lot of volunteers. But when you're that person and you're asking people to volunteer and to join and to help you to do this major undertaking, do you want someone to say yes and then not show up? No. Do you want someone who's truly has a full plate and is overcommitted to take on this one more thing that pushes them over the edge? No. When you get a yes from someone, you want a full yes, that they're actually going to be there and that they're not going to drop the ball on you. So, um, even when someone would say no to me, if they said no with integrity, then then that was useful, right? That was useful information. If they said yes without being aware of their limitations and their values and whether or not they were actually going to show up, then they could end up creating a problem. So um, you want to give people the gift. I love what Brene Brown says about unclear is unkind. So when someone is asking something of you and you don't know if you can commit all the way, then tell them that. And then get some clarity about that. Sit down and evaluate what else is on your plate. Is this a priority for you right now? And if it isn't, um, the answer of that's not a priority for me right now, or I wish I could, my plate is full. Your dog's birthday party sounds amazing, but that's just not, I don't have the space for that. Is much better than inviting 17 people to your dog's birthday party and having one or two show up when you have food for 17 people. That's not kind. Okay, it is not a kindness to say yes to people when there is, you are contaminating the pool. There is that resentment and that unwillingness behind it. That's not kind. Being clear about that you have resistance to actually doing this is better. It's also very kind to be clear about what your resistance is, and then maybe it's something that can be overcome. For instance, today we were asking for people who would be greet the new people, and someone said, I have this uh, obstacle that I won't be able to attend in person. However, I still want to be a part of this, and this is how I can contribute. That's clear and kind. It means that we have people who are doing a kind of work that maybe we hadn't considered was important, like sending people cards and written notes of encouragement. Um, and we know then that we need to find someone else who's going to be the greeter or the, whatever it is that we're doing. So that's part of it. Be, the hard work of when to say yes and when to say no is knowing what you value and what your priorities are. Um, I think the hardest time where I wanted to say no and had a hard time doing it is when it had anything to do with my kids. Um, because, I would throw myself in front of a train for them. I would give up my life for them. I would, um, but that's not what they really want. They want a kind, helpful, willing mom to show up who wants to be there. And at the other end, it's like, is this my problem to solve? Like, especially I'm dealing with adult kids now who um, can solve their own problems, and you need to let them. So, when to say yes. Sometimes to say no. Don't take responsibility that isn't yours. Don't solve problems that aren't yours to solve. Don't give advice that isn't being asked for. Um, so make sure that you're saying yes to something that is within your wheelhouse. Um, that that help is actually being requested. Um, oh, this one's so hard. Lack of planning on your part is not an emergency on my part. So the fact that you didn't schedule, you didn't think ahead, that's not my problem. And that comes up at work, that comes up in our families, that comes up in relationships. And you can't always just drop everything and run. So definitely say no if um, if it's not your area. Definitely say no if um, the emergency isn't your emergency. Lack of planning on their part is not an emergency on your part. Sometimes to say yes. So definitely say yes when what is being asked of you is um, fits into your values, when you know what the why, your why is, and also when you're honest with yourself about your schedule and your ability. Like, you need to have your calendar out, you need to have a list, you need to know. Don't say yes if you don't know how much time your prior commitments have already been made. So you do want to keep your word. Um, when it becomes clear that you are overcommitted and there are things on your plate that you are not going to get to, then again, clear is kind. You'd much rather let other people know, hey, I'm overcommitted. There's more on my plate than I can get to. This is what I'm going to be able to do. And then and that gives you the opportunity then to have that conversation about what other resources can be brought in. Are there other people who can cover for you? Is there something else who can help to make sure that other people's needs are met? Um, Another time to say yes is when you're a little nervous, when it's outside your comfort zone, when you're scared. It's really good to interpret nerves as excitement instead of as fear. And um, you will find that everything that you want is on the other side, is outside of your comfort zone. Everything that you want that you don't have is outside of your comfort zone. Everything that you want that you don't have is also going to come to you through a stranger, whether that's a mentor or a doctor or a financial planner or a new job or a new friend. Everything that you want is going to come to you through someone you haven't met yet. And it's a little scary. Um, so when you're anything that helps your comfort zone to grow is a good thing. Um, I also like the idea of choosing baby steps. So if there's something that you want and you make a grand master plan that involves you being somebody that you're not, the chances of that plan failing are nearly 100%, like it's pretty much guaranteed. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you um, needed to take a micro step first. So it's really good to take a tiny step in the direction. Um, Today in Dr. V's challenge, what he talked about was that happiness is progress. And that really resonates with me from the point of view that when I was judging myself based on whether or not I had achieved my goals, then everything seemed futile. None of the changes that I was making um, was good. So, for instance, let's say you're in sales and you make it your goal to do, $10,000 in sales. You'll feel like, and then people keep saying no to you and you're not making progress towards that. Whereas if you make your goal to get 10 people to say no to you today, then every time you ask someone to listen to your pitch and you get a no, then you're making progress toward a goal. And that is good, right? That rejection is good and it's good for you. It's outside your comfort zone and that's all happiness and good. Um, so definitely when you have said yes to something and you start to feel resistance, resentment, or unwillingness bubbling up in your heart, then you want to sit with that feeling. And it's good to meditate on that a little bit and just let it be. Find where that resistance in your body is, find how it feels, and allow yourself to feel the resistance. And then ask it, why is this something that I'm resisting? And then the question is, what do I need to do? Do I need to renegotiate the terms of the agreement? Do I need to scale back on this? Maybe it's still something you need to do, and it is in alignment with your values, and some of that is just a shift in how you think about it. For instance, just trying to, for instance, keep my house clean for myself. It's a bit of a challenge because I'm not great at being accountable to myself. But when I see myself as a waitress, then I see it as a game. So like every room that I go into, it's like, okay, I'm the waitress, and is there a table that needs to be cleared? And then that makes it better for me. I don't know. That's one thing. So yes, that's it. When when you say yes and you feel the resistance, you want to figure out where that resistance is coming from. Is it because this is something that's not in alignment with your values? Do you feel you're being taken advantage of? If you are, then there's a way to communicate that you can do that without being blamey. And I think Eckhart touches on some of that. Like, you can say to someone, um, I'm feeling some resistance here. I kind of feel like maybe, I'm being taken for granted. When you then so you want to use your I statements, and try to find a way that maybe all you needed is a thank you. Maybe all you needed was to know how this is making a difference to the person that you're helping. If it's something that really needs to be done. So there are ways to do that. So if you're scared, if you're nervous, if you're excited, that's a good sign. Say yes to that. I had that happen just this last week. I said yes to, it was called speed networking, and it was like a thing to help other people at work get to know each other. That we all work for the same company, and not necessarily to create long friendships, but maybe to get to know other parts of the business, and got to be 15, 20 minutes before it was going to start. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And that was just the discomfort of me getting outside my comfort zone. And so that is a good time to just be still, be with the discomfort, allow it. And that's part of the growth. Like, you'll have that growth happen once you sit with that for a little bit. Assuming that I still had the time to do it, and it was still in alignment with my values of reaching out to people, which I've tried to get better at. This background I chose, this, I don't know if you recognize it. I'll show you if I can. This is the set of the Pixar movie Up. And I chose it because this grumpy old man said yes to love and yes to adventure by this lifetime with the woman that he loved. And then he was presented with another opportunity with the dog and the little boy and all of that. And just saying yes to that adventure when you didn't really want to. When you change how you think about that, then it can raise your spirits, and your life will be bigger and better and full of more love. So say yes, even when it's uncomfortable. Say no when it's not yours to fix, and say no when it's not in alignment with your values. And definitely say no if you don't have the bandwidth, if it doesn't fit your schedule. So let me know your thoughts, and I'm always looking for the next topic, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.